Hello. Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a sweet girl sleeping sweetly in her bed alone. She was in a full-out onesie in her polka-dotted jammies when all of a sudden at 2:37 a.m. in the morning on East Coast time, there was what sounded like an attack. All of a sudden, crash! Flying through her window, her bedroom window, was a stinking head-sized boulder. Before that happened, she was kind of rustling in bed, not quite sure what was happening as little things started pecking at her window. But when the boulder crashed right through, suddenly she was out of a crazy dream that involved bubble bunnies and she was into an even crazier world where a boulder was flying through her bedroom. At this exact instant, suddenly there was this sound. It was a musical sound. It was this odd, off-brand, romantic radio song that was blasting out in the street. And when I say blasting, I mean like this was louder than any sound this girl had ever heard. It was so loud that the song was practically screaming in her ear, even though it was outside of her broken window. Now, she wasn't sure if this was a terrorist attack, she wasn't sure if this was another dream, she wasn't sure if someone was playing a practical joke on her, and so extremely tentatively, she found the only weapon that she had, a wireless phone charger, and whipped it around, hoping that she was going to be able to fend off any attacker. And outside her window, on the grass, was a boy that she knew from college. He had wind-rustled hair and wind-rustled daisies, and he was standing out there blasting out music like he was some DJ in a club. He was out there with a sideways hat and he was waving her down and he started yelling at her. He had to yell at her in order to project over the music. And he says to her, "Will you date me?" It sounded something more like, because it was so hard to hear him over the music. And she's up there in her onesie jammies and she is the most confused she's ever been in her life. And before she has the chance to say, "Heck no, get off my lawn," her roommate, who is an ex-military chick with a quick temper, runs out of the front door of their shared home and starts firing a bazooka at will at this attacker. Let's just say this, the story started with the guy having 2 pinkies, but by the end of the night, he only had 1.5 pinkies. This video is all about how not to ask a girl out on a date. So put on a hat to be cool and join along today in today's episode of Love Stories with Grady. Hola, I'm a 22-year-old boy who has never dated a girl longer than 22 hours, and in today's episode, I'm going to learn how not to ask a girl out on a date so that someday I can do it the right way and date a girl for longer than 23 hours. Now, this is planning for far in the future. If you're one of my beloved 10 to 20 viewers that I get on a weekly basis, I'm sorry, but I'm not on the market, just wanted to let you know. But what inspired this video is not only my desire to do things correctly in the right way down the road when I meet my future wife in the ketchup aisle, but also I was inspired by this book, Facts of Life and Love by Evelyn Millis Duvall. If you've been watching my channel at all, you know that every single week I dive into one of the chapters in this book that was written in 1957 and talk about what we can learn from it in present day. Today, we're going to be looking at some of the aspects of Chapter 6. All right. So if you're a guy watching this and you want to really learn some quick tips on how not to ask out a girl, 1, learn from that story from earlier, and 2, learn about what to do and what not to do in this upcoming video. Also, if you're a girl and you want to ask out a guy, well, you can also learn from this too. The same things apply. This video is actually kind of near and dear to my heart, and the reason is because in 2015 I was a high schooler in college, and at my community college I was in a public speaking class, and I think we did 3 main speeches. The third one was about the problem with low self-esteem and insecurity, which you can watch up here. The second one that I did before that was the life of Shia LaBeouf, which went over pretty well. Maybe someday I'll upload that to YouTube. But the first speech I ever did was how not to break up with a girl. And I really liked it. I think it was my worst out of all 3 speeches. And I might have a recording somewhere if I do find it someday. I'll probably post it here on YouTube. But until that day, I'm going to be talking about how not to ask someone out. So there's one tip that this book talked about that you should do. So if you want to ask someone out on a date, the book says that you should have something in mind already. Now, none of these rules are hard and fast rules. There's exceptions to all of these. But in general, it is a good idea to say, hey, let's go to mini golf. Let's go to this restaurant. Hey, let's go see the movie on our first date, which is absolutely pointless because then we can't talk. But anyway, if you give a time, a place, and a purpose, then the person that you're asking to go out on a date knows what to expect, knows what they're saying yes to, and knows what they're in for. All right, so what not to do? Number 1 of something not to do out of 5 points. Number 1, don't be indirect. Girls don't like that. So Grady, what does indirect mean? How can you be indirect about something? The example the book gives is by simply phrasing the question and asking the question, hey, what are you doing next Friday night? Now, a lot of people ask people out this way, so if you've done it before and it works for you, good for you. But the reason the book recommends to not go this route is because it puts the girl in the spot. Basically, you're leading up and prepping to the point of, I want to ask you out on a date, but you're not bold enough to just come out right and say it. So you're going the backwards route and saying, are you busy on this certain night? And when you ask that, the girl is put on a spot because rather than rejecting the date request that you're eventually going to follow up with, she has to decide, all right, do I say that I'm busy? Do I say that I'm not busy? Do I tell the truth? Do I lie? Because if I lie, will that make it easier for me to reject the date that's coming? If I say that I'm busy, will the person not ask me out on a date? So basically, you're just making things harder for the person you're asking out, and you're cowarding behind that one unconfrontational question that actually isn't really helping you. And so if the question really is pertinent, ask it, but if it's not, skip it and get right to the point. Number 2, there's a boy that the book talks about named Amos, and Evelyn Millis Duvall gives an example of how Amos shouldn't ask a girl out. And the problem with Amos here, his problem is that he plans on getting rejected. So when you ask someone out on a date, don't plan on them saying no. Just act with the confidence of them saying yes, and if they say no, well, oh well. So here's what Amos shouldn't have done. I don't suppose that you would like to go out on a date with me, would you? What kind of dating request is that? Come on, Amos, get your head in the game. The book says that this backhanded kind of invitation, the self-defeating invitation to a date, will make a girl incredibly uncomfortable or make the person that you're asking incredibly uncomfortable. And it's simply a mark of your insecurity. Sorry, I know I'm insecure and I'm trying to get better, but... Dude, just stop talking about it. Number 3 thing not to do that this book mentions is don't ask the person last minute. Now, we see in all these fancy movies that the boy's asking the girl out on the very last second and they have a spontaneous date that lasts all night. And yes, this can happen in real life as well. However, the likelihood that the person will actually be able to go last minute and will want to go at the exact second that you ask them on a date to a date is not very high. So you can risk it, but if the situation isn't leading you up to that, then don't risk it. Now, on the flip side of that, the 4th thing the book mentions that you should not do when asking someone out on a date is to not ask way far ahead of time. So don't ask something like, hey, Jill, would you go to homecoming with me in 2 years, please? Or don't say something like, hey, Jill, will you marry me in 9 years, please? 5th thing to not do when asking a girl out on a date is don't be afraid. Now, I know that is easier said than done if you are a worrywart before you ask a question that has no guaranteed answer of yes. However, you have to remember this, even if she says no, you are both complimenting her and giving her an invitation. And so even if she says no, know that you were able to show this girl that she is worth going out on a date with. And regardless of if she goes out on the date with you or doesn't go out on the date with you, she'll probably remember the fact that you asked her for a long time. Now, girls, or to the person who is accepting the date request, you and I have to get real here. We have to have a little talk and we have to be pretty serious during this exact moment. So this part is for you. I'm gonna ask you to do something huge and hard and something that you might not want to do. I'm going to request from you that you be truthful. So when someone asks you if you want to go out on a date with them, then be truthful and say, yes, I want to go out on a date with you. Or don't say that. Say, no, thank you. I don't want to go out on a date with you. And everyone can get better at saying no. I'm with you. Sometimes it's hard for me to say no for certain things, but being afraid to tell how you actually feel, or being afraid to tell the truth, and being afraid of telling the truth of how you feel, doesn't help you, and it doesn't help the person who's asking. It's better to tell them no right away rather than to lead them on for months and months and months and months and feel bad that you're gonna break their heart if you ever tell them no when you've been breaking their heart all of these past months because you've let them grow even more attached to you and think that you are genuinely saying yes. So to close things out today, I want to read out the 10 Commandments of Good Conduct, which is also titled How to Catch a Man Without Running. So if you're the person waiting to be asked out, start applying some of these things. It might not necessarily guarantee someone is going to ask you out, but it might guarantee that you'll be able to start catching a man without running. Like I said, there might be some exceptions to these, and these might have applied more in the era of 1957, but you can still choose on if you want to apply them to your life. Number 1 commandment to catch a man without running. Be a person with taste, dressing appropriately for the occasion. Number 2, act like a lady and he will treat you like one. Be able to enjoy an everyday date as well as the glamour occasions. Number 4, don't hang on him too possessively. Number 5, which I don't really understand what the heck this means, but it says, don't have him fetch and carry just to create an impression. Probably something like this, hey, dude over there, can you go grab my sweatshirt and carry it for me? I guess that's what that means. Number 6, make up if you like, but do not try to make over what you are. Ooh, dropping bars. Wait, I need to say that again, just a little differently. Make up if you like, but do not try to make over what you are. Word, peace. Number 7, be popular with girls as well as boys. Number 8, learn to like sports. It's an all-American topic in which boys are interested. Now, I don't agree with that one. I don't think that's a requirement. I personally wouldn't care, but whatever. Number 9. Don't be too self-sufficient. Boys like to feel needed. I can neither confirm or deny this. Number 10, be natural. No genuine boy wants to date the fake version of you. Anyway, in this video, we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about how not to ask someone out on a date, how to ask someone out on a date, just briefly, we talked about that. And then we discussed how to accept a date. So hopefully during this, you learned at least something about the dating process. But most of all, what I really hope you learned, and this is what I personally learned, if I want to get the attention of a girl, and if I want to ask her out on a date in a very romantic way, I probably shouldn't start out by taking a boulder and trying to throw it at her window to wake her up, but accidentally crashing it through. If you liked my failed attempt at rapping something from 1957, you can hit the subscribe button down there. And if you like this video enough for you to move your mouse or move your finger to hit the like button, well then I recommend you do that. And finally, what I'm most interested in seeing is comments below on other tips of how not to ask someone out. Do you have any insight? Do you have any true stories about yourself? Do you have any things that you've heard from friends or family of what not to do? Well, I want to hear it all below. Alright gang, this has been Grady Orc coming at you with another video. Next week, we're going to be talking about, hold on a second, what to do on a date. So once you ask that girl out or that guy out, what do you do on a date? Where do you go? But until then, keep loving love and keep living your story. Adios. Word, peace.